Good evening and welcome to Willow's Green Permaculture. Today's video is all about garlic, even though you don't see any of it here. This is what I put in after the garlic, because this is what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about planting garlic, growing the best garlic you can grow with the biggest bulbs possible, dealing with leek moths, harvesting, curing, everything you can think of, and also what to do with the space after you've harvested your garlic. And here we are with our last garlic. Now, I'll show you an image of how much we harvested. How much garlic do you think is there? Give me your guess in the comments. Everything about garlic. So if this is something you're interested in, then let's get started. Know that our garlic is ready to harvest. First of all, we've made sure to remove the garlic scape before it completely develops so that the garlic bulb underneath can grow nice and big. Now, if you look at this garlic right here, on its bottom, it's got 1, 2, 3, 4 completely dry leaves. And there was a 5th one that's you can't even see anymore. It's completely gone. 5 dry leaves. On top, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 still green leaves. Now, these leaves are half dry. This is mostly because of the lack of rain. The bottoms of these leaves are still very green. That's why I decided to leave this one as an example to see how much more it'll grow, because really, you can wait until you just have 3 green leaves left. Because what these green leaves do is, while the garlic is drying and curing and so on, the last couple of leaves that are left that are green, they're going to give that last cover, those last nice fine thin coverings on the outside of your garlic. And so you want those. These dry ones are the ones that are already covering each one of those garlic cloves. And then these ones are going to be the last ones. And so this one, you could say is, you could still wait, and that's why it's still in the garden. You could wait until this leaf here dries, or this one dries, and you only have 2 or 3 green leaves left. That's how you know when your garlic is ready to harvest. I'm going to be curious to see how this garlic is when I'm going to wait until it's got 2 leaves left, and then I'm going to pull it. So let's start with the harvest now, and then we'll get into storing and curing. We'll talk about what to do with the empty space in the garden afterwards and why. After that, we'll get into a review of how to grow garlic, when you should plant it, where you should plant. We changed our spot this year, and that experiment was a success. How you overwinter it, what you're going to see in the spring, and how you can make sure that you can grow the biggest bulbs possible. And we're also going to talk a little bit about dealing with leek moths. It's July 12th today. I'm harvesting about a week earlier compared to previous years. But I really do believe that because of the new conditions, that's why it's ready earlier. It's also just, we haven't had rain in I don't know how long, and they're ready, I think. The bulbs are bigger than ever, at least the ones I've pulled, and I pulled maybe 5 or 6 of them in all, and none of them were small. Putting my boots on because I'll be using a pitchfork. I don't want to put it in my toes. Loosen the soil a little. Not much, just a little. I just feel like they're all stressed because of how the ends look. So let's see how this looks. There we go. Now there's the first one for today. The garlic is really healthy because just look at those roots. They're still very rubbery. Another good one. I'm going to count them. 2, 3. I picked about 480 GarlicScapes, so I should have at least that many garlic bulbs. Starting about a month before your garlic will be ready to harvest, you're going to start seeing the GarlicScapes grow. It's important to cut them if you want your garlic to grow to its biggest size. The garlic bulb does most of its growing after the garlic scape has been removed. Because rather than put all its energy into growing those mini seed bulbs, it can grow its bulb bigger. Don't wait for the garlic scape to be too long or all curly to pick it. You don't want it to put all its energy into that flower. Once it's long enough that you can easily break it off with your hand or cut it off with a pair of shears or a pair of scissors, you're fine. Don't pull the plant, but break that garlic scape. You can use garlic scapes in soups or in stews. You can pickle them, or you can fry them up, or you could even dice them up and throw them into a salad. Now, around the time the garlic scapes appear, you may also see evidence of leek moths. If you notice your garlic scapes are shriveling up and drying, and there's maybe some white residue on them, they've likely been attacked by leek moths. Now, it's not really a big deal. If you notice it, all you need to do is cut those garlic scapes off. If you notice some leaves affected, you can cut those off as well. The thing is, it doesn't harm your garlic bulb because you're going to have to cut the garlic scape off anyway. A number of our garlics were attacked by leek moths, but as you're going to see with our harvest, it didn't affect them in the least. If I remember, I'm going to leave about a dozen over there in the middle somewhere. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 29. Boy, it's coming out easily. 30, that's nice. 31, 32, 33. 8, 9, 50. Barely gotten started, but this should be about 10%. Pick the grass. No grass, no grass. 92. Wow. 95. Oh, beautiful, this one. Lots of monardas and raspberries around here. Now, most people say don't pull them, but the earth, surprisingly enough, is very loose here. And I mean, I've pulled 130 of them and not one stayed underneath. You know, they say I could break the green connection of the green leaves to the bulb, and so they won't be able to finish curing properly. But I'm being very careful as I pull. I'm pulling gently. I've pulled 130 so far. Not one has stayed under. 40. 41. Didn't mean to pick that plantain. Get back here. 41. Lost count a bit, but I'm pretty sure I'm at 141. 2, 1, 2. Now stay tuned, because I'm going to be transplanting stuff here afterwards, and maybe sowing some buckwheat. A word about ragweed. I love ragweed, but there's too many people who have real severe allergies to it, so I don't let it stay out front here, just out back sometimes. Because it's a very high in protein seed. Okay, 366. Don't lose count. 367. 383. The mustard really doesn't bother it. 383. This one was stuck right to a mustard root, and it's still really big. The ones that break are the smallest ones. 399. 400. 400. That's about as many as I got last year, I think, was around 400. I'm at 400 now, they still got lots left. 450. 470. Can't remember how many how many GarlicScapes I said I got, but it was around this number, 470 or 480. Up to 470 now. 26, be sure to watch my garlic video from last fall, because that went real well. 43. Wow, still lots left. 499 and 500. This is number 500. I'm going to count 12 a leaf. 533 plus 12 plus 5 plus the 5 you have inside makes 550. 550 garlic bulbs for the year. Now I got to pick it all up. 533 garlic bulbs. There's a bunch there, there's a bunch over here, and a bunch there. So let's pick them up. And here are the dozen that are left over. Good thing is, I don't have to dry these before they go in. They're as dry as bone, even the roots. All the roots are healthy. Already putting aside the ones to plant in the fall. Oh, this one still had its garlic scape on it. You see how small that bulb is? Because I didn't remove the garlic scape. Look at that. Yep. All right. I just found another one. That's a total of 534 I picked today, plus a dozen that are still in there. So that's 546. Plus at least 5 that are in the garage, if not 6. So at least 551. Just found 2 more. 536. Just found this one too. But it's looking in really good shape. So I grabbed one of these ones from the dozen, because this one was more than ready. So there's still a dozen left in here. 537 plus a dozen is 549, plus 5 is 564. I meant to say 554, but here's how many I planted from last fall. There's a bit of a mystery there. Okay, well, let's bring this in and hang these up. This is our drying area that I've prepared. The same shelves I used to start my seeds in the spring, and the same shelves I used to harden them off out in the garden. I don't wash them. That's why I want a nice hot dry day to bring them in. They're good and dry already. It's going to be so much easier to cure them. And here in our garage where we have lots of windows and lots of flowing air. Don't wash them, don't clip them, don't peel any leaves. I just let them dry as is. Not with big clumps of dirt, but with a little bit of dirt on them. It's eventually just all going to fall off. Now I'm just going to turn these shelves around so the bulbs are facing the outside. It was 6. Maggie kept 1 for the kitchen. So that means 543 garlic bulbs here. These 2 here, they're the 100 bulbs that I'm keeping for the garden in October. These are the ones I'm going to show Maggie right away because they're nice and big, and she'll keep them for the kitchen along, of course, with all the rest. When they're dry enough, Magali will make braids with them. Even though they're hard-necked, she's still able to do something like this. The garlic's too crowded in the garage right now, so I'm going to bring these shelves in as well. Now they're much more loosely packed. So I've taken off over 100, just over 100 garlic bulbs from these 16 shells. So there are about 460 garlic bulbs left on these 16 shelves, and that makes about 29 garlic bulbs per shelf. I didn't count them, they're approximate. And really what I could do, I could feed each garlic through one of these squares and hang them vertically like this if I want. I might get around to doing that. But anyway, with about just under 30 garlic bulbs per shelf, we should be good here. All done. I'll clean up all this dirt. I regularly come in and check out the garlic and see how it's doing. And each time I come in, I'll take just a couple of minutes and I'll transfer a few of the garlics vertically like this. I've got plenty of room to put 30 vertically like this. They're drying very well. Typical shelf here. There are 30 of them. A bouquet of garlic for Magali. Here is Magali's reaction when she saw all the garlic that we're gonna have for this year. Here's the garlic bed the day after the harvest of garlic. There's a whole bunch of ever-bearing raspberries in there that I'm going to transplant, so I'm going to leave there. But a lot of everything else, like for instance a lot of this mustard that's in the middle here, I'm just going to remove for mulch and composting. Here are the dozen garlics that were still left, but I see I missed a few right here. As I cleaned up the garden to plant the watermelon and so on to replace the garlic, I decided to harvest 11 of those last 12 that I was going to leave in because most of them looked like this, with only 3 leaves left, 3 green leaves left, and barely green at that. So I decided to take them. So there are 11 of the 12 there, plus a whole bunch of other ones that I found. So we're up to a total of about 563 garlics. An important idea of permaculture is to use in place. So these are the weeds that I cleared out of the garlic area because I'm going to be transplanting a whole bunch of vegetables into here. And I was going to put all those weeds into the wheelbarrow and cart them off to the chinampa way out back, because surely some of them were going to re-sprout just by the fact that they're covered by others. And so their roots would have been covered up and they'll re-sprout, because a lot of this stuff in here is really useful and really good. There's yarrow in here, there's mustard, there's mullein, there's curly dock, there's wild bergamot, and so much more. But I decided to mulch my Guadalupe cucumbers because they like to climb and they don't compete too well with the plants growing around them. And anyway, here's one of them. They're quite beautiful, and they're entirely edible, even though they look spiky. The outside's edible too. This is still very small. When they start to turn yellowish, that's when they're ready, or whitish yellowish. So there we go. Rather than carting it all the way to the back, I used them here. And if some of them resprout, that's great. And I left a whole bunch in there, but just small, so that they regrow, but they don't shade the watermelon and other stuff that I'm going to transplant into here. And the raspberries I left in place, I cut them back, and it's closer to the fall, I'll likely transplant them more in the fall. And there's a lone garlic still there that's still doing really well. It's still got 4 fully green leaves, so I'm going to see how big that one gets. Now let's rake this and get it ready for transplanting. I was tempted to leave a lot more of the mustard and the wild bergamot and the mullein and the yarrow and so on in place, because it's growing a bit everywhere, because it self-seeds. All that stuff self-seeds quite readily and is very, very beneficial. But the problem is there was a lot of grass and other problematic weeds, and if I had left all those in place, it would have been a lot more difficult for me to see that other stuff. And it was important for me to get rid of all of those aggressive weeds like the grass, because they can cause a real problem if they get established in the vegetable garden. Now a lot of the stuff that I pulled, the yarrow and the mullein and the mustard and the wild bergamot and the oregano, it's just going to grow back again anyway. We have it everywhere in all of our gardens, and it's really, really great. The only things I left purposefully were these raspberries. They're ever-bearing raspberries. They're the same ones that grow right here. They are so delicious. And so I just cut them down so that they concentrate on their root growth, and in the fall I'll transplant them. And now in here what I'm going to put are watermelon, maybe some cabbage, some other melons, and some ground cherries, and a few other things. And hopefully they'll all be done producing, and I will have harvested them by about mid-October, mid to late October, the end of October, when I plant the garlic again. This is a much drier part of the garden where I planted them a year ago. When I planted them in the fall of 2023, I planted them in the wettest spot in the garden where our onions are. Onions really like that. They need a lot of water. They don't want to be always waterlogged, but it's not waterlogged there, but they need a lot of water, more than garlic. And what Alson Pine, one of my subscribers, said was garlic needs to dry up in its last few weeks. I decided to try it here where I used to have the peppers, and it really, really worked. We had our best harvest ever. Our total is about 565 garlics, and I'm really, really happy about that. And they're also the biggest ever. The soil is very dry. We have had basically no rain. I've never seen soil like this. And there was such a thick layer of mulch on here. That mulch is completely gone now. It's in the soil. You know, if you saw the video last fall, I put a thick layer of leaves on top of the garlic and compost, and just left it on there in the spring, and they grew right through it. And now, well, now it's in the garlic. Now we're going to be eating all that mulch and compost. But wow, look at this. It's dry. But if I dig down, I've dug down about this deep. Well, at least the soil is cooler down here. Certainly not damp, but there's moisture in there. A little further down, that's where the moisture, yeah, gets cooler. There we go. Anyway, that's why we want our roots to go deep. Go find that water. Okay, let's go have breakfast, and then I'll plant later when there's a bit of shade here. Got some watermelon here that I want to transplant into here. It's looks like we might have a thunderstorm coming, which would be fantastic because we haven't had rain in a month. And so I'm just going to get started. Well, it's mid-July, so there's a lot of season left. It's very, very important to use the emptied space in your garden. Because otherwise, all sorts of other stuff that you didn't plan will grow, and sometimes that can be good and sometimes not so good. And so, there we go, first plant. And so it's important. Now, what's the other important thing is these plants are a bit stressed because they've been in their pots for way, way, way too long. Oh, the rain is here. Wonderful. Let me see if I can cover up the phone. I'm working in the rain. As long as it's not storming. If you know your approximate harvest date, that's the time at which you have to count backwards for sowing. You know, no more than 4 weeks, because in the summer things grow real fast. Oh, this rain is really welcome. Very, very welcome. I hear a real downpour coming. I may have to go in. Let's see. Perfect timing. Transplant. I sowed these on June 8th. About 5 weeks ago. These are August ambrosia type watermelons, except that instead of red flesh, these have hybridized with other watermelons we've grown. Although we've never ever bought yellow flesh watermelons, but they've hybridized and created yellow flesh watermelon. And so they're quite very, very sweet. So it started to thunder and lightning out there, and I'm not going to work. I don't mind working in the rain, but I'm not going to work under thunderstorms because that's dangerous. Not going to do that. And so whatever I plant in the garlic bed today needs to be ready by, I'd say, the last week of October, so I can plant the garlic again. So you saw me just planting some watermelon under the rain, and there are 6 plants of ground cherries that are waiting out there too. But I've got a few more watermelons and regular melons here. And what's this? And this one I called it golden date melon because it was a watermelon, because it was a watermelon that Magali and I ate on a date. It was this beautiful, delicious yellow flesh, so we kept the seeds for that. And if there's a lot of space left over, I've got some buckwheat seed I might just sow. And I've also got a okra plant out there. Might have a few other things, I can't remember. These melons I just showed you, they've been sitting in these pots since May 28th. That's when I sowed them. That was way too early. I shouldn't have sowed these for putting in when harvesting the garlic. I should have waited till about June 15th to sow these. 4 weeks in advance would have been plenty. I've also got this volunteer squash that just started growing in this pot. That was just an extra pot that had some soil in it that I was going to reuse for something, but the squash decided that it wanted to grow on its own. I don't know if this is a squash or a pumpkin. We'll find out. I'm going to put that in the garlic bed too. Let's continue. Got some more melons here. I'd much rather do this work and pull out goodness knows what might grow here. I just left it. It's nothing. Usually I don't walk so much in the garden, but however, this part of the garden has already given a huge harvest. We're so happy about. And in the fall, when we add mulch and stuff, and we plant the garlic, it'll once again soften up the soil. It's full of flowers. Beautiful. Now, some of these vines are so long, I'm going to cover them with some soil. You see, just like pumpkins and squash, you cover the vine with a little bit of soil without covering the leaves or the flower buds. At those leaf nodes, the vine will sprout more roots. And you can do that with pumpkins and squash too, and cucumbers. And that protects them, the pumpkins and squash, from the squash vine borers. Because even if it were to get them, the plant will have multiple root systems. But when you cover the vine, you're also hiding the vine from the squash vine borer. So there's nothing better. There's a nice little trickle going on of rain right now, which is perfect because right now beneath the surface the soil is still dry. I couldn't ask for better weather for a transplanting in the middle of July. Some rain and clouds, cloud cover. Got all these roots. That's because I kept a tray with water underneath. Look at that. Look at those roots. Oh, and those are all from one plant. I don't remember which one it was. But you know what? I'm going to take these roots and I'm going to put them in the ground. Goes to this one. Who knows? See what happens. Look at this. Look at those roots. Melon or watermelon roots. Okay, you need a close-up of this. That watermelon or melon or whatever it was spent way too long in that pot. That little tiny pot. Look at this. Look at this. Anyway, I'm going to bury this and see if it can help the watermelon or the melon that it's right beside. Right here. There it is. Maybe it'll give its energy to the other one that's right here. You might wonder why I dig my holes with my hands instead of using a trowel. I use my hands when I can, because that means that the soil is nice and friable. You see me using a trowel, that means the soil's real hard. Not ideal. So the garlic bed is all full of vegetation again. I much prefer to make the effort of starting some plants in pots ahead of time in order to be able to have stuff to fill the area, because in the past, if I haven't done that, then it's just been these gigantic weeds at the end of the season. And yeah, you can use them for mulch and all the rest of it, but sometimes they can be invasive, sometimes they can be grass, and if I wasn't on top of them and they went to seed, then forget it. That's just grass seed or any type of seed of anything that can be problematic, you don't want. And so this way, we're gonna have food again in this area. Now, I started a little bit too early for a lot of them. I've got some cauliflower here that's been in little pots since May 28th. That's when I sowed them. Same thing with the watermelon and the melons. I also put in the last of the peppers that have been in pots since March, April, May, June, July, 4 months in pots. I don't know if they're going to do anything. I already have 135 pepper plants growing and doing real well, but we'll see if these do anything. I find that peppers and watermelon grow really well together. Peppers like to have a little tiny bit of shade, especially if they're stressed, and that's what the raspberries are going to do, the little bit of leftover raspberries. What else do I have in here? I've got ground cherries. I've got 6 ground cherry plants in here, which is going to be perfect because you see, next year if these ground cherries self-seed, well, they're going to start growing just around the time that I have to harvest the garlic, which is just right. Pull all the garlic out and leave the ground cherries to continue to grow, and they'll fill the area, which is really nice. I've go over here, I've got some kind of pumpkin or squash volunteer, and then in the back, just in front of all that mustard there, I don't know if you can see it, I've got a whole bunch of syrup sorghum. The conditions here are really ideal, and so they might have time to give us a harvest. And I got one okra plant in here, and I have 2 loofah plants that all of a sudden decided to sprout out of pots that were hanging around. And I thought, okay, I'll put those in here too, although the loofahs are doing really well on the cattle panels. And so now I was lucky because we got clouds and we got rain while I was transplanting, and then the sun came back out. But I said, I got to get this done. These little plants were so stressed in their pots, they weren't going to be any more stressed by transplanting in the sun. Now they're just getting ready, just getting used to their new spots right now. So that's what I do with the garlic area after the garlic harvest. I hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you found it useful and you learned something from it. If you liked it, then please give it the thumbs up and please share it with your friends. And don't forget to leave a comment or ask a question. I love to answer your questions and to respond to your comments. And if you haven't done so yet, then subscribe to our channel. Support what we do here just by subscribing, because maybe you can watch a lot more of our videos and help us out that way. Thank you very much for watching. Have a wonderful week, and we will see you next time.